when I hire somebody, it's got to be full time. Well, that's not true. And then you might think they have to be 20 hours a week. Well, that's not true either. You should question your beliefs. You can hire somebody that's hourly as needed and then agree to like $25 an hour or whatever.
I had this opportunity to like continue to improve my filmmaking or to focus on the business. And I was looking, I'm like, my filmmaking is already like, I don't want to say that I can't become a better filmmaker, but I think I'm already charging the most I can charge for the quality that I can deliver. So then I'm looking at, okay, what if I focus on being a better CEO or boss, and maybe I could find bigger jobs to land or more opportunities to land. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can make so much more money if I focus more of my time on business development and like actually growing the business versus becoming a better filmmaker. And so that's when I decided that I need to do that. This makes a lot more sense in the business for me to spend time, where we can make a lot more money and keep a lot more money.
I've had to really like forcibly take out time from my schedule and play the CEO role more purposefully and say, well, where do I want to go? Where should our company be going? What kind of work do we want to be doing? As opposed to just reacting off of all the stuff that comes in.
On episode 464 of the podcast, we talk with Dave and how he discovered he's an integrator, not a visionary, and what that means for running a video business. We also talk about why the 80% rule changed everything about delegating and letting go of perfectionism, and then how breaking through belief barriers can unlock growth you never thought possible. What's up, my friend? Hey, welcome to the Grow Your Video Business podcast, where I help creative entrepreneurs build businesses that actually work for them. I am Ryan Coral. I am so excited that you are here. This is a good day, wouldn't you say? I did not mean to sound like Dr. Seuss there. I am grateful to be here. I'm grateful for your earballs listening to this episode. Dave is in our mastermind, and he's built something incredible inside of his video production business. He's built a 7-figure business, and I'm glad for you to be able to hear his story and partly how he's built what he has. And my hope is that you take some things away and you can apply them to your own video production business. So before we jump into that though, speaking of Ryan, mastermind, what are you talking about? Well, I'm glad that you asked, because 'tis the season right now where if you are feeling like you're doing this business alone, if you hit 6 figures in your production business, but you're pulling your hair out, you want to kind of get to that next level in the business, but you're just not sure how, you don't know who to talk to. If you want to be in a circle of friends, filmmaker friends, that have gone there, that are going through this, have achieved success and also are hoping to grow. Maybe they've achieved success in cold email outreach, or they've figured out how to book $100,000 jobs, or they've figured out how to get an assistant and to do it incredibly affordably so that they can spend their time doing other things inside of the business. If you feel like you're in a spot where you want to invest in yourself, then it's time to consider the mastermind. If you have heard us talk about, when I say us, there's a mouse in my pocket. If you've heard me talking about the mastermind, this is your opportunity. We launch January 2026. Now is the time to get your application in, just to see if this is the next step. So go to studiosherpas.com/mastermind. You're going to get more details on all things mastermind. This is your opportunity. When you go to that page, you can fill out the application. It's not scary. There's some questions that are introspective questions that you should be thinking about, regardless of the mastermind, but things that you should be thinking about in your life and your business. And if on paper it looks like, wow, this person probably would be a good fit, then we'll hop on a phone call and do a mini, I don't even want to call it an interview. It's really just to see and hear a little bit more, allow you an opportunity to reflect and say like why you think now might be the best time for you to join the mastermind. So we start in January January. We'll have a retreat toward the beginning of next year, an in-person thing. The group will be 12 people or less, so you'll get to know these other people. And this has been game-changing for so many people. Masterminds have been game changer for me. This is why I invest so much time and energy in them. They're fun, fulfilling. It's where I've achieved the biggest growth in my life and in my business. I promise you, this is not a sales pitch. This is true for my life, and I can give you example after example. So it's been fun to have previous mastermind members come on and talk about their own experience. And I think Dave and I touch on that a little bit. But anyway, now's the time. You've got time this month to submit your application, and we will be accepting people into the mastermind in November and December and launching in January. So there's still time to do it, but not join now, but go check out all the things. StudioSherpas.com/mastermind. That's all I've got. Let's jump into this episode. So grateful that you're here. And if mastermind's not for you right now, that's fine. Check it out anyway. Read more about what the transformation is, how it's helping people in their businesses, just so that, one day when you do get to a spot where you feel like this might be the thing, a little bit more about it, and it can be an easy, I need to apply for this thing. So, okay, drum roll, episode, here we go.
What's up, my friend? Hey, welcome to another episode of the show. Today with me is Dave Hunter, who is the founder and creative director, integrator, of GreenRoom Video, also in our mastermind. Dave, so good to have you on the show, and I'm so grateful that you responded to my text message yesterday that said, yeah, I'll hop on the show tomorrow. That sounds great.
Yeah, I'm here to save babies and change lives. That's what we do.
Kiss babe. Are you, which babe?
I don't kiss them. That's inappropriate. I just save them.
Okay, so we've already been, I'm glad I hit record earlier because I think there is some golden moments in this episode so far. Let's talk about, okay, you've been running this production business. How long? What are you doing in the business? What does it look like?
Well, I started actually making my living in theater in my 20s. That's what I did for a living. It was always my dream. So I used to be a performer, director, a technical director for multiple theater companies, including my own. And so I got to live that out in my 20s, and I was always doing videos on the side for money because, theater people don't really make a lot of money. Right. So I learned how to do video in college. I graduated college in 2002. So at that time we were doing mini DV tapes, the Canon GL2 and those kind of things, So I would for example, I would be directing for a children's theater company, and then I would film the musical and sell the DVD to the parents, so we get we get their orders and make a certain amount of DVDs. I had to learn DVD Studio Pro at the time, and edit 2 angles and then mail them all out. And then I had somebody help me design the slip cover. And then I would do wedding videos on the side because when you're in your 20s, everybody's getting married. And I didn't know what to charge. So I'd be like, yeah, I could do that. Well, how about $12 an hour? Is that okay? And, they're like, yeah, sounds good. I'm like, yes.
Sounds real good.
Yes. When you're 24, you don't know anything,
Yeah.
So, and then I would do camp DVDs and, and promo videos for certain theater companies. But then what happened is my theater friends grew up and went on to legitimate jobs. And then they needed a promo video for their company. So they're like, hey, Dave knows actors and can direct, and he's made some videos. Maybe he could make a promo video. And I was like, yeah, how hard could that be? So they would hire me. I would cast some actors and kind of direct it. But at the time, I only had mini DV stuff, and I had to hire somebody to get HD equipment because back in the early 2000s, HD was not so common until the 5D Mark II came out. But so I hired somebody to shoot it, and I directed it and edited it, and then they're like, oh, this is great. And then they ordered 2 more. Then they refer me to somebody else. And so over time, the referral game, started getting crazy, and I was doing a lot of theater and a lot of video. And I was like, I don't think I could do both of these. And one of these pays pretty well, and the other one I enjoy, but it takes my nights and weekends. So I decided to let go of some theater stuff and do video. And that was probably, I think I went full-time doing the video thing maybe 15 years ago, something like that, 20 at the most. I got a really large account for a company and started doing a bunch of videos for them. And then that allowed me to let go of some theater accounts. So today we do what we call 3 buckets of sort of industries we serve. We have businesses, and we have several accounts for businesses. We've got churches and nonprofits as well, because I live in Chicago area, and there's several large sort of multi-site churches, and they actually have bigger budgets than like a single church normally has, and they like to do a lot of video work. So we have churches and nonprofits as a category that we serve. And then we've also got school districts. So we have about 9 or 10 different school districts in the area that we do, campaign videos for, or if they're doing like where they raise your taxes, to renovate the school and they need to make videos about that, or they need to recruit for more teachers. We do teacher recruiting videos, all that kind of stuff.
And what's the makeup of your team?
We've got 3 full-time, 1 part-time as in terms of employees, and then we've got like 10 to 12 contractors. So the full-time is myself, a project manager / executive assistant, who's been a game changer for us.
Yeah.
We got a full-time editor who also shoots, but I would say is like 75 to 80% editing, 25% shooting. And then we have somebody who's usually on shoots, but also scripts writes and can build sets, because we've done projects where we need sets built or props, specialty props, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. I love that. When did you add the project manager / executive assistant?
About 2.5 years ago. It was me and the full-time editor for a few years, maybe 2 or 3 years. And then what happened was I was driving one day to bring him a hard drive, and he lived about an hour from me in downtown Chicago. And I got in a little fender bender car accident, and then I had to pull over, exchange information, and then drive to him, and then drive back. And then I realized that day, what am I doing as the CEO, owner, runner of this company, driving a hard drive for an hour and taking all this time out of my day to deliver a hard drive? I need somebody else to help me do this kind of stuff. And I'd already been in conversations with my business coach about a project manager probably being the next hire. And that little fender bender accident that turned my trip into like a 4-hour thing and wasted half my day was the point at which I was like, okay, enough is enough. And she's been amazing and taken so much off my plate and freed me up to do more things that I should be doing.
Like, give us an example of like what would some of those things be?
So emails. So she will. I've now stopped checking emails in the morning, and I have her clear my emails out and then let me know if there's something that's urgent. And then otherwise, I usually write down like 2 or 3 things I have to do in a day, and I go after that first. So I do 1 or 2 of them, and then I check my emails. As opposed to, I used to do is just get in the morning and check emails, and then I would be at the mercy of responding to what's come at me, which means I'm not really in control of my schedule. I'm giving my email people the control of my schedule. So I've handed that to her, and that's been a game changer. And then she just lets me know if there's 1 or 2 that's urgent, and I can just text her the answer and she can respond for me. Another one is she started taking over proposals. So she and I will do initial meetings, 30-minute meetings with people about a new project. And then she will actually run through all the questions we do with them. And then she will develop the proposal and just kick it to me for approval. And then she will send it to the client and then follow up about it. So I'm not spending time doing proposals anymore. She's learned how to do that, how to calculate our numbers. She will staff our shoots. So with a team of, we got, let's call it 3.5 and then 10 contractors, we'll have multiple shoots sometimes simultaneously. In fact, next week I'm going to Ohio for a shoot with somebody else, and then we have another shoot happening here. So she will staff the contractors and get the shoots, like who's going to be on what, and should the editor be home editing or should they be on the shoot, all that kind of thing. So schedules, and then she keeps on terms of like she keeps on track with when first drafts are due, when the changes from the clients are due, when's the final draft, and keeps everything on the timetable that they need to be on. That's some examples.
So I wanted Dave to share that because I'm certain there is somebody listening that is like, wow, somebody check my email, somebody to follow up after a discovery call, actually make the proposal, somebody that's like coordinating contractor, like, oh my gosh. I remember when we had just launched our corporate brand and I had this guy approach me and say, hey, I'm a producer. Like I've been following your work. I'm looking for work. I would love to work for you. And I will work for pennies on the dollar because I just love your mission, everything about you. And I'm like, oh, this sounds cool. What the heck is a producer? So this is my, my wedding filmmaking background was like, hey, you got to know how to shoot, need to know how to edit, sell, just like make the things happen, create schedules, hire the team, like everything.
Totally.
And when he started breaking it down for me, this is what a producer does. I just started laughing. I'm like, oh yeah, that's all the stuff that I do. I'm like, but
yeah,
then
I guess I'm a producer. I'm a producer and a filmer and accountant and sales rep and CEO. Oh, easy. No wonder I'm stressed.
Right? So as he's describing to me these things that a producer does, I was like, oh my gosh, all this time, I've been doing this work for years and years and years. I did not realize that was what a producer does. And to think that that somebody is capable, because here's the thing, there's definitely magic in producing, and you can be a really good producer or a crappy one, but it's I think a lot of us fall into this trap where we believe like, hey, you're the best producer. Like you are the most efficient at hiring, finding the right team, getting the most efficient schedule, making sure you're asking the right questions to the client, like all these things. But let's just go back to this idea of having an assistant / project manager / producer. In the book Traction, which we were talking about before we officially started, I highly recommend this book Traction. I've talked about it a lot on the show. I haven't talked about it there we go.
I got it right here.
I haven't talked about it in detail in a while, but one of the things that Gino talks about, I think in that specific book, is $20 an hour tasks. And he says, if you are the CEO, owner of business, and granted, he's EOS, they originally built it for companies that I think are $1 million or $3 million more, 10 employees or more, but it can apply to smaller businesses.
Totally.
So when we say $20 an hour tasks, just think what it means is, as the owner, you should at bare minimum be charging for your time at least, and this is like bare minimum, $50 an hour. I think $100 an hour is a lot more appropriate. And then I would say, man, I would love to see you at like $200 or $300 an hour. And I don't think that that's inappropriate or outrageous. I think you can really get there. So what I'm saying is, if you're charging $100 an hour for your time, there are tasks like driving a hard drive to somebody that you should never, ever be doing, because you could hire somebody for $20 an hour. While that person is doing that thing, your sweet spot, or one of your sweet spots, is selling.
Yeah.
Because as the owner, the founder, you're the one who believes so much in the work. You're the one who talks about it with the most passion. You're the one who can answer all of the questions and do all of the things. So if you're selling, I'll just share this real quick story. When we moved into our new studio, we said, hey, let's offer co-working space. We'll offer a $35 drop-in fee or whatever. We started getting a bunch of calls, and then my team kept asking me questions. Hey, so, okay, this person wants to come in. This is the time they want to come in. Can they work after 5? Do we have to do alarm? They kept asking me all these questions. In the meantime, I'm trying to close a $10,000 job, a $30,000 job, a $50,000. I literally am trying to close probably $100,000 worth of opportunities. And my team is pulling me away to talk about a $35 thing.
Yeah, totally. Just to jump in here for a second, like this.
Yeah.
This sounds really easy to you and me because we've done it. But truthfully, when I hired my first employee, it was actually really difficult to do.
Yeah.
And then the second one was easier. But one of the things I've done in the past is I've done like retainer contracts where they're a contractor, but I guarantee them like 2 days a week or 3 days a week before I hire them full time. You could also do an hourly thing, like if you want to find somebody and try them out hourly for a certain amount of hours a week and see how it fits and see if they even fit. Because there's like a danger of hiring somebody full time and they're like, oh, they suck. Or what do I do now? You know what I mean? But one of the things I heard at a leadership conference one time that really resonated with me when I hired my editor, because I always have thought that, I do a better job than my editor at making these projects. But what I heard at this leadership conference was, if somebody can do what you're doing at 80% of what you can do, they should be doing it. And that was really challenging for me, because I'm like, well, wait, shouldn't it be 100%? Like, this is my name and my company and my reputation. You want me to take a hit on quality? But it's true if you want to grow. If you don't want to grow and you just want to do the best work ever and then stay where you're at, then yeah, do all the work yourself. But if you want to grow, sometimes you have to let go of a little bit of quality to grow, and then the quality can catch up over time and over, training. But that allowed me to have permission to let some quality slip so that I could, grow.
Hey, quick timeout. If you're listening to this show because you want to grow your video business, but you feel like you're spinning your wheels doing everything yourself, and you're wondering why it's not getting easier, listen up. I've been there multiple times throughout running this business. The bottleneck, feeling burnt out, the late night, what's next, panic, what did I forget? That's exactly why I started the Studio Sherpas Mastermind a few years ago. This is a small group of just 12 video business owners who are done figuring it out alone. Some members have doubled and even tripled their revenue. Others have hit over $1 million for the first time in business. In this group, we talk strategy, profit, we go over systems and hiring and mindset, all of the things that actually move the needle. So if you're serious about scaling your studio without losing your sanity, apply now at studiosherpas.com/mastermind. Don't keep doing this thing solo. The climb is a lot easier with Sherpas by your side. Again, it's studiosherpas.com/mastermind. All right, let's jump back into the show.
One of the biggest and best things that's happened to me in the past year or so, maybe a little bit long, well, probably about a year. That 80% thing it resonates. It hits really hard. I've been almost since day one, very perfectionistic in the quality of work.
Yeah, same.
I want it to be the best. I want the team to keep pushing each other to make better.
Yeah.
And at some point, we had just had our second kid, and I had this opportunity to continue to improve my filmmaking or to focus on the business. And I was looking, I'm like, my filmmaking is already I don't want to say that I can't become a better filmmaker, but I think I'm already charging the most I can charge for the quality that I can deliver. And so the incremental betterness that I can become as a filmmaker is not going to equate to much more dollars that I can charge. I've already come so far in my career that so then I'm looking at, okay, what if I focus on being a better CEO or boss, and maybe I could find bigger jobs to land or more opportunities to land. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can make so much more money if I focus more of my time on business development and actually growing the business versus becoming a better filmmaker. And so that's when I decided that I need to do that. This makes a lot more sense in the business for me to spend time, where we can make a lot more money and keep a lot more money.
Yeah, I do think at some point in our industry, you have to decide, if you what do you want to be better at? Do you want to be a better artist or a better filmmaker or better at lighting, or you want to be better at running your company? And sometimes it's more of a safety zone to choose the artist things to be better at, and it's much more difficult to choose how to be a better business owner and business operator. But if you want to grow, and this is all if you want to grow. If you don't want to grow, honestly, there's people out there that are happy with what they're doing, and the work quality is what matters, and that's fine. I'm in a situation where I like growing a company and building a team, and I want to go further. So I have to practice being better at running my business and not better at some of these other things that I can hire other people for and have them get better at those things.
100%. The idea of growth. So for me, I said, okay, let me focus on the business stuff. But it has taken me almost since then. Charlotte was born in 2010, and it's 2025. It's taken me about 14 years later to realize that my striving for 10 out of 10 with the quality of our work, that has to change. That had to change. And so for about a year ago, I realized that our clients, they don't notice. Just like the incrementalness increasing me as a filmmaker, our clients were not going to notice that.
Right.
And they definitely weren't going to pay for it. Even if I told them man, I've spent 3 more years refining my craft. It's even better now. They're like, I don't care. They are focused on results. And so when I look at delivering something that's a 6 or 7 out of 10, again, most of our clients would not know the difference or see the difference or feel the difference from a 6 or 7 out of 10 than a 10 out of 10. And so as a creative, I have to be okay. I don't have to. I'm choosing to be okay with delivering something that we don't overshoot, overstaff, over-edit, re-edit, all of that stuff, so that we can give the client what they want and be okay with it.
Yeah. I remember a few years ago, this was a huge shift for me. Because I used to have my editors send me first drafts, and then I would give notes first internally, and then we would send it to the client. And then one time we tried, like, once you send it to the client, and then I'll give notes with the client.
Yeah.
And then I was like, do I really need to be giving notes? Like, the client's kind of giving all the notes. I'm like, well, maybe just send it to the client and we'll see what happens. And then they would just like do back and forth notes. And then the client, I remember an email coming through one time where they were like so happy with the video, and I hadn't seen it. My job was to just email the invoice. And I'm like, what world am I living in where I don't have to touch this or look at it or see it? And the client and my editor went back and forth on 3 rounds of changes, and they're super happy. Does that mean I don't have to look at every video that we do? And that was like 3 years ago. And now it's like would literally be impossible for me to look at every video. Like, we do so much that I'm like, thank goodness I learned to let go of that.
Yep. Yeah. It can be done. I promise you. I don't care how creative you are, how great the work is. If you are mentoring, if you have other people that you're wanting to work with, they can get to a spot where, the 80% rule, maybe it's 60%. I don't know what that percentage is, but at some point it's good enough for the clients, and the process of getting them to a place where they're improved, you can mentor them, you can coach them, you can give them feedback to help them improve, but to know that you don't have to always be the one, and maybe not ever again have to be the one that's shooting the video, that's editing the video, that's giving the feedback.
Yeah. And if you have an editor that cares, that gives them also more autonomy, more ownership, more pride in their work. And they did a good job without you, and they don't need to be babysat, and they appreciate that freedom. There's a lot of, teamwork benefits that comes from that too. But like you said, it can be done, but until you've done it, like sometimes it's like hard to believe it. Alex Hormozy came out that recent book about millionaire models or whatever. I remember seeing his wife say something about a belief barrier, like they haven't crossed a belief barrier recently, and I had never heard that term before. A belief barrier, and I've been thinking about that past week. But there's several belief barriers we have. Well, we don't think that that's possible, but it is, and the only difference is choosing to try it or choosing to go past the belief barrier and see that actually it can happen.
What would you think? I'm writing this note for myself. I want to brainstorm about it a little bit more. Okay, as you're listening to this episode, what is a belief barrier that you think maybe you have? Dave, what belief barriers are there? Other ones that you can think of that come to mind for filmmakers in particular?
For filmmakers, like that they might have, or for ones that I have currently?
Yes.
Well, other ones that filmmakers might have is like somebody can't do this as good as me. That would be a belief barrier. My project manager is actually now better than I was at onboarding new clients and sending proposals and communication. Like, I'm like, oh, you're better at that. And that's something that's challenging for me too. Cause like, you're supposed to hire people that are better at you than things. And then I'm like, but I'm better at everything that they are, So, and I can't afford at the moment to hire somebody better at me. I kind of need to train them up a little bit, I think, so, but that's a belief barrier. Somebody can't do it as good as me. She didn't do it as good as me for the first several months, but now she's like a baller. And here's what's happening. What's interesting too with the proposals is she will send me a proposal and I'll be like, that sounds kind of high to me. And then she'll show me the math behind it. And I'm like, oh, you're actually charging what we should be charging. And I would have charged less because I feel that's too much. You know what I mean? And so she sends it and then the client's like, all right, sounds good. I'm like, son of a gun, I would have lost money if I did that, Yeah. But because it's not her and her company, it's just a company she's a part of. She doesn't have any issues. Like, these are the numbers. I take it or leave it, So that's one. Somebody can't do it as good as me. I think maybe there's a belief barrier. Let me speak for myself from the past. I didn't never believe that I could book a job, not go on the shoot, not see the edit, and then just send the invoice when it's done. And that happens all the time now. All the time. That would be like a literal myth. That's mythology. You mean our company is, I'm going to be in the sales meeting only, And then my project manager is going to tell me when it's finalized, and I'm just sending the invoice, and that's all I'm doing. And I'm not even going to watch the video or the series. Like, it could be a series, like 10 videos we did for them, and I didn't do any of them. I didn't see any of them. And I'm like, that's ridiculous that that's real, but it's real. You might believe that that could never happen. That happened to me. It probably happened to Ryan too.
Well, I was going to say, I remember the first time that we had a client, an agency client, and we had worked on a couple of projects with them. And I would go on these projects, like kind of producer, director role, would help out. But I had a team all in place and they were doing most of the things. But then, we booked another job and somebody challenged me to like, hey, like, do you really have to? And I'm like, oh yeah, I gotta be there. Like this is like one of our biggest clients. And I just started thinking, what would it look like? So I showed up on set and I shook hands, told everybody, my team was setting stuff up. And I looked at the client. I was like, anything you need from me? Because if not, like, I'm going to hit the road. And they're like, no, seems like the team's got under control. And I'm like, absolutely they do. Okay. I'm going to go now.
I knew they had it. I knew they had it on control. That's why I came anyway, just to make sure.
And I'm leaving, like I'm actually going to be gone. Like I'm leaving the set. Like I'm not going to be here anymore. And you can't call. They're like,
so we're
okay,
actually having, along that subject, we're having conversations right now as a team about what shoots I should be on. And what's the filter? Like, we've gotten some advice recently from a business coach that you need to create filters for how you decide whether or not you should be on a shoot. And so like one of the filters might be, it's a new large client. So I need to be on the first shoot, for meeting them and all that kind of thing. Another filter might be, I'm personally passionate and want to be there. So that could be a filter. But then there's filters like, it's an established client and we've done these before. I don't need to be there at all for that, or it's a lower dollar amount client. Probably not worth my time to go spend a whole day doing that. I should be going out to lunch with people and, business developing instead of being on a shoot where we make like $4,000 or something, Right. So anyway, that's conversations we're having right now in real time. Like, how do we decide when I should be on a shoot and when I should not be on a shoot?
I love the one about the new client is interesting because it's essentially like you going on set, making sure that the client feels comfortable, and you kind of like, this is how we work and this is who's doing what. And, next time we do this, like, I'm probably not going to be here and your point person is going to be this person right here. But, I just want to come hang and make sure that you didn't need anything. And then hanging out, like in those moments, there's plenty of opportunity to like dream up other ideas on how you can help them, things that you can upsell, things that you can add on, and having those conversations with the client to just open up, if you're there with somebody for 4 to 8 hours and, the client's not involved in the actual shoot or interviewing and it's just you and the client kind of hanging out. That's where it's like, you talk business, you talk about other things that you guys do. It's hard to do that on a 30-minute discovery call. Yeah. Where it's like, well, we can also do this and we can also do this, but you see them in action. They see your team in action. It just opens an opportunity. And I'm certain that you are having those kinds of conversations with these new clients.
Totally. And there's like a certain amount of getting to know you thing. Like you said, you spend 4 to 6 hours with them or 8 hours. You have lunch together. You start chatting about things other than business, like families and stuff. And you get to know each other and there's trust being built. And now they trust Dave and Dave's attached to GreenRoom. But to be clear, one of the filters for us is like, it's got to be a large client because we'll get new clients that like as a school district and it's just a simple, recruiting video. And I will not go on that. I'll be in the discovery call. It's like maybe, let's say, a $6,000 video and my team will just go shoot it, edit it. I'll just chime in on email sometimes. But we decided like they can do that. I don't need to be there. And it's not this huge high priority project that would make sense for me to be there on. They can do some of the work that I would do when I'm there. But if it's a larger client, $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, now I'm going to want to be there and have my hands in it.
Oh, that the belief barriers, this is really powerful. I love just identifying those. I think another one, can never afford to hire someone.
Yeah.
Right? Like I barely make enough money as it is. How could I ever?
Yeah. What's been helpful for me in thinking about belief barriers is like, changing the sentence from like, I don't think that's possible to what would need to be true for that to be possible. If I'm going to hire somebody, what would need to be true? And then you start answering that question. Because now you're thinking from a growth mindset as opposed to a scarcity mindset, or from a, at least, optimistic. Yeah, optimistic. Because then maybe you'll solve the problem. Because then you also might think, when I hire somebody, it's got to be full time. Well, that's not true. And then you might think, I need to they have to be 20 hours a week. Well, that's not true either. You should question your beliefs. You can hire somebody that's hourly as needed, and then agree to like $25 an hour or whatever. And then they might become more needed than you think, but like you could just do that and do that arrangement. And somebody's really happy to have a side job to working for a video business that would be exciting for them, that they do in addition to their full-time job or have to. And we have people that have full-time jobs that do stuff for us in the evenings, or take off work and come do shoots or work on the weekends with us, because they love what we're doing and love being involved in it. But I can't hire them full-time or even part-time. But I'm like, I can give you, you can post for social media 3 times a week for us if you're cool with that. And that's what they do for their company. And I'm like, if you're cool doing that for side income, let's do it. And they're like, yes, I'd love to. Now they're creating a content plan. This is happening right now. I've got a social media person that's creating a content plan for the next 3 months, going to pitch it to me. And then she's going to start rolling out and creating the things. And then she'll send us anything we might need to edit or provide for her through a Dropbox folder. And then she's going to take that over. And she's like super excited about it. She's not a full-time staff, part-time staff, nothing like that. She's just doing it in her hours. We just agreed, let's do this many posts a week, and whatever that takes, bill me. And then we'll revisit this in 2 months and see how it's going.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I'm thinking about my first contractor that I hired on the regular. He made well over $100,000 working with me. And he did it all. He shot with me, and then he edited a ton. He probably made a couple $100,000 or more.
Wow.
And while he was working his 9-to-5 corporate, Monday through Friday job, he was grinding it out in the middle of the night on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday to get these edits done.
I don't think you need to say grinding in the middle of the night. You can use a different phrase. No wonder he was making so much money. So much money for that.
But I wouldn't know, Dave. I wouldn't know.
Okay, got it.
So,
but he was part-time contractor?
He's part-time contractor. And when there wasn't work, we didn't hire him. When there was, and he's available, he did it. So that that's the best testing ground to figure out, can you manage people? Can you set expectations? Can you communicate clearly? Can they save you time eventually after you've trained them enough?
Are they good in the long run and not just in the short run? Like they seem like a great idea, and then 3 months later, like, oh, they're not very motivated. I didn't realize that when we first started.
Or I don't like them. I don't like being around them. I'm not energized when I'm around them. Like all that stuff. To be able to test somebody before you commit to, I definitely feel like I need a staff person of, my first employee. And then you feel like you have to hire somebody at a high salary, full-time. No way, man. Like, don't start there. Start small, easy. Even if this person isn't somebody that would leave their full-time job or whatever else they're doing, just to start testing yourself out as a manager, as a boss, as a delegator.
Yeah.
To find out if you can do it. And you probably can, but you need some reps, and you can do it little by little.
Yeah, and that's the majority of our team. I mean, we've got 3.5 on staff and like 10 to 12 contractors. So it's way outsized on people we hire as needed. That's the majority of what we use.
Yeah, I think that's free. Hopefully that's freeing for you, our listener. What in your business, what are you most excited about? What are you looking forward to?
We've been doing some of these documentary projects on organizations and churches that are on significant anniversary years. And that really has been, I've really been enjoying that artistically because, we do so many of the 3-minute, 2.5-minute story videos, interview B-roll. We've done this for so many years. To do more of a fleshed out, 10-minute, 15-minute, 20-minute piece. The way we approach that is we basically do an outline that kind of breaks it down into little 3-minute, 5-minute chunks. And so it's like producing, 5 3-minute videos, but they're well thought out in terms of the story structure and what leads to what. And then we go execute that. And we just wrapped up a 30-year anniversary documentary for a church in Ohio called Cedar Creek. And their 30-year anniversary is in October, and they outsource it. They have 7 campuses, and so they outsourced that whole project over to us and gave us like all this archive footage and stuff. So we went down to Ohio 3 times for filming, doing it, 2 days of interviews and a bunch of B-roll. And it's fun to do a longer piece that I feel very comfortable doing and then show it at the 15-minute piece. And so we've been really enjoying that. We're starting to proactively more go after those kinds of projects. And like we've done a 50-year anniversary for a tech company, which was super cool because they started in the 70s and they're a tech company. So the fact that they've lasted, like back then they were doing the old IBM machines, they were like huge computers, and then they made it like through the 80s, 90s, and Y2K. They were really big involved in the Y2K and trying to fix computers. So we actually did a whole section in their documentary of what were you doing in the 70s, what were you doing in the 80s, 90s, 2000s, and that was its own section to show how the technology, transitioned and changed. And we went and got all these old images and did all these motion graphics. So I really enjoy those kinds of projects where we get to go back and tell somebody's story, talk about their culture and who they are and how they came to be, and kind of flesh it out to where they're proud of it. It's a similar feeling when you do like a 3-minute video and the person you did the story on is proud of that work. But when you do that for an organization and there's multiple people that are like, oh wow, I didn't know that, or wow, you really got our culture. That's exactly who we are. Like that's very satisfying.
Love that. And I know you're doing EOS work. What's the vision? What's your 3-year goal?
We were at 1.2 million in 2023. That was the first time we ever crossed $1 million in sales top line, which was a belief barrier of mine.
Yeah.
There's no way we're gonna make $1 million as a company. Like, that's ridiculous, And then it like happened seemingly accidentally. So we have a 3-year target of being a $3 million company at the moment, and heading towards there, needing to have a certain amount of large ongoing contracts, like retainer type jobs. We need a certain amount of like $100,000 clients to get there. And then we have a 10-year goal of being a $10 million company. That's a belief barrier I currently have. My business coach told me like, oh, I definitely think you could get to 10 million in 10 years. And he goes, maybe even sooner. I was like, you're ridiculous. That's dumb, But like, I remember when I first started working with him like 7 or 8 years ago, he asked me the question, when you give proposals to clients, how many proposals do they say yes to? And I said, probably 9 out of 10, I would say. Sometimes 10 out of 10. And then he goes, your prices are too low. And I'm like, what? I should be getting 10 out of 10. What do you mean, idiot? And he's like, no, your prices are low. So like everybody's saying yes. So you need to raise your prices so you're getting more no's. But then the people that say yes is covering financially for the people that are saying no. And I'm like, that's crazy. So I started doing that. And then like, it was really hard for me to have people say, no, that's too high for us. That was so hard for me. Cause I'd be like, okay, I'll lower it. Whatever, you just tell me what the number is. $1,000? Okay, we'll do it for 1,000. No problem. We love you. 1 week shoot, $1,000. Done. You know what I mean? But then like,
can't relate. No idea.
But then I was like, maybe it's okay for people to say no. And that was a belief barrier I had. Like, that's not okay for people to say no. They should always say yes to our proposals. But that's not true. Not if you want to grow. And that was really, really hard for me. So, but he was right. And now that he's like, oh, you could get to 10 million. I'm like, oh, maybe he's right. But I don't believe that yet. I don't believe it yet. So, but now I got to ask myself the question. So what do I have to do to get there? What would need to happen? And what does the team look like in 3 years? That's one of the things I like about the book Traction and the EOS method is like, there's a 3-year picture you have to draw. And so if we're going to be a $3 million company, how many people are on staff and what are those seats that they're sitting in? And what's the seat I'm sitting in? Is it the same one or is it different? Like my project manager, we've currently decided that in 3 years, my project manager will no longer be the project manager. She'll be the director of operations, more of a director title, and we'll hire another project manager underneath her, whether it's part-time or full-time. And then she'll take the larger projects that she's managing, but then she's more directing the organization from a director of operations standpoint. And so the other thing that's doing for our team is like, hey, here's where you're headed in the future. Here, if you're interested in being in that seat, here's where we're going. Let's start prepping for that in the next year or two and start handing you some tasks. So when that comes, it's not some big, huge learning curve. You're actually ready for it, So that's some of the work I've been doing on the EOS method, which is challenging for me because I'm not naturally a big picture thinker or a future thinker. I naturally think in terms of projects. Like in the next week or two, what do we have to do? We have so much to do. Yeah. So like if you ask me what we're doing, where are we going in a year from now? I'm like, a year from now, will we be alive? Why are we talking about that? That's weird. Let's just get through the next 2 weeks, please. So I've had to really like forcibly take out time from my schedule and play the CEO role more purposefully and say, well, where do I want to go? Where should our company be going? What kind of work do we want to be doing, as opposed to just reacting off of all the stuff that comes in? We should. We're trying to turn around and be proactive and say we want to do more documentary projects for significant years, or we want to do more work in the nonprofit church space, or we want to get more clients that are 100,000 that have an ongoing set of needs. How do we find those? They probably are larger companies. They probably have a marketing department. They might even have an internal video guy, but it's too much for him. So then we start like figuring out, how do we get there?
I love it, dude. I think the idea of growth, we've used that word a lot. And for everybody, that word, it should mean something different. I know early on, when I started this business, I started reading business books. And they were all about growing. How do you scale? How do you do all these things? And so for the longest time, I just thought that adding more staff and adding more clients and making more money, not keeping more money, but making more money. Big difference there. I want you to keep.
What's the difference, Ryan? What do you mean? Explain that to me.
Yeah. So, as my mindset for so long was, okay, we've got to hire more people. We had, I think, 9 people on staff at one point, and we were not keeping much money. Pretty much everything was going to staff, and we were overstaffed. We were not efficient. We didn't have a good project management system or a good project manager that was keeping us as efficient as possible, and only hiring contractors when it made sense versus like if it felt like we needed to. We feel like we're so busy right now. Yeah, but on paper, what hours are we committed to? And we've already estimated how many hours it's going to take to edit this thing. On paper, we should be done with this edit by the end of this week. So we shouldn't have to bring in another editor, and we shouldn't have to bring in another shooter. And so what Dave has shared his vision, $10 million. I know some people are going to be like, holy crap, that is like, wow. Like I've got a belief barrier that if I make $100,000 this year, it's going to be a great year. So Dave's dream, vision, plan, it should be different than yours. And the way he's going to go about it should be different than the way that you're going to go about it. There might be things that he said that are inspirational and that are exciting, but if you don't have a plan to like have a team and to manage a team and people, then your end goal is probably going to look a lot different than his. So just consider getting really, really crystal clear on what is it that you really want. And my hope for everybody is that you would find and experience more freedom in your business so that you experience more freedom in your life. And I'm talking financial freedom. I'm talking time freedom. I'm talking passion, being able to do more of the kind of things that get you excited and fired up and really allow you to do more of your gifting, and to be that for the world versus getting tied up in the business, feeling the pressure of like, oh, I got to build $1 million company. I got to do all these things in order to get there. And then you become a taskmaster, you lose your heart. You're not focused on the things that you're the best at, that you can charge the most for. You're doing $20 an hour tasks and all these different things. So definition for growth is going to be different for everybody. I want you to grow in freedom, and part of that means you're making more money, but you're ultimately keeping more. And maybe if you don't make any more money ever, but that you just keep more of the money that you're making, that it would become yours instead of, where is this money going? Why am I not seeing my bank account growth? That's my biggest hope.
Sorry to jump in real quick. I know you're probably wrapping up.
Okay.
I'm a big Dave Ramsey fan, he's like financial freedom guy. And he has this quote that says, act your wage. So like, don't be spending more than what you can afford. And that's kind of from a business perspective, what you're talking about. To have 9 people on staff does not mean you're winning if you don't have any profit left over at the end,
Right.
Act your wage as a company, even like, what's your dollar amount? What are you spending? You should have profit at the end. And profit doesn't mean your salary. Profit means after your salary, there's still profit, So that's a good word.
Dude, this is so good. I love it. I'm so glad that we were able to squeeze this in last minute. I appreciate you for doing that. Thank you for sharing your journey, your wisdom, your insights, all of the stuff. If people want to get in touch with you, how can they do that?
Just go Instagram or website, greenroomvideo.com or at greenroomvideo. GreenRoom is like that, the theater space in, the back of a theater where you wait before you go on stage. That's where the name comes from my theater roots. So greenroomvideo.com or at greenroomvideo.
Got it. Awesome. Any parting words before we peace out?
I hope we saved babies.
I think we did.
That's it. No
All right.
parting words.
Appreciate you, brother.
Yeah, I'll say one parting word. Learning about yourself and how you are would be very helpful in your business too. Ryan's talking about, figuring out what growth looks like for you. One of the things that's been really beneficial for me is learning about who I am, my temperament, my personality style, what I'm good at, what I'm not good at. And if you really have no self-awareness about any of that stuff, you got a world of hurt coming to you, and you can avoid some pain by being like, who am I naturally? How do I actually behave in certain situations? What am I actually not good at? And being honest about that, and maybe finding somebody to help you with that. But there's a big self-awareness component, I think, to being in business and working with people, even if that's like therapy or whatever, personality profile tests. I've had a long journey of that, and it's really been eye-opening and humbling to realize that I'm not good at everything.
Ditto.
Yeah.
Good word.
That's it.
Appreciate that. Awesome. Thanks, brother. Appreciate you.
You got it. We'll see you later.
Hey, thanks so much for tuning into this episode of the Grow Your Video Business podcast. If you got something out of today's conversation, do me a favor, share it with a friend or post it on your socials. Tag me at Ryan Coral or at Grow Your Video Business. I'd love to know what resonated with you. If you've got a question or takeaway, drop a comment wherever you're listening or watching this. You can also shoot me a message. I read every single one. And hey, if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. We've got more stories, strategies, and behind the scenes insights coming your way to help you build a business that you love. Keep creating, keep sharing your story, and keep showing up. I'm cheering you on. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. See you next time.